What do you see when you look up at the sky? A few bright dots, maybe the moon, maybe a trail left behind by an airplane. Let's go back, way back, 5,000 years before you. In Mesopotamia, a man was looking up at the same sky. And from those points in the sky, that man was reading when the crops would be harvested that year, and which day the floods would come. Believe it or not, half of the things the phone in your pocket does today, ancient people did with their eyes, with no telescope, and when mathematics had only just been born. This video is about humanity's first appointment with the sky, who looked first, what they saw, and why what we today call GPS, in fact, started in the hands of a Babylonian priest. When you say astronomy, what comes to mind is a modern laboratory and scientists in white coats. But astronomy, if not the oldest profession in human history, is at least the second or third oldest. And the reason is very simple: agriculture. If you were a farmer along the banks of the Nile 7,000 years ago, what would your biggest problem be? The answer? When to plant your seeds. Because if you plant a week early, they will dry up. If you plant a week late, they will not have grown by the time the water arrives. There are no clocks. There is no calendar. What is left? The sky. The Egyptians, about 5,000 years ago, noticed something. The star called Sirius, on a particular day of the year, would appear on the horizon just before the morning sun. Exactly that day, 1 week later, the Nile would flood. Every year, without fail. They named that star Sopdet, and they made it a goddess, because to them, that star was the one feeding them. Those men had only just discovered the wheel. They were only just inventing writing, but they had already learned how to read the sky. Let's come to Mesopotamia. The Babylonians, who lived on what is today the land of Iraq, showed an almost obsessive precision in astronomy. They recorded the movements of the stars, night by night, on clay tablets, for 700 years. 700 years. Some of these records still sit in the British Museum today. On them are written the rising and setting times of the planet Venus, lunar eclipses, the orbit of Jupiter across the sky. Their calculations are so accurate that when NASA today wants to confirm an eclipse from the past, sometimes they look at these Babylonian tablets. The most advanced space agency in the world, comparing data with information that comes from 5,000 years ago. That is something that deserves respect. The Babylonians did one more thing. They divided the sky into 12 parts. Sound familiar? Yes, they are the ancestors of today's signs of the zodiac. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, not these names exactly, but the same logic. Dividing the path the sun takes through the year into 12 regions is the work of Babylonian priests. The Chinese also took the sky seriously. So seriously that it was a matter of state. In the courts of the Chinese emperors, there were officials whose job was to observe the sky. Do you know what these officials were responsible for? If something unexpected happened, a comet, an eclipse, a strange flash, they were to inform the emperor immediately, because for the emperor, these were political messages. An astronomer who could not predict an eclipse in advance would, quite literally, lose his head. His job really was a matter of life and death. Among the Chinese records, there is one that still excites historians of science. In 1054, Chinese astronomers wrote that they had seen a bright new star in the sky during the daytime. For 23 days, it was bright enough to be seen even in the light of the sun. Then it faded. Centuries later, modern astronomers realized something. That flash was the moment of birth of what we today call the Crab Nebula. It was a supernova explosion. The Chinese man, on that day, had watched one of the most violent events in the universe live and taken notes, without even knowing what kind of information he was recording. This has always amazed me. Ancient people knew what they did not know, but they recorded what was in front of their eyes, so that future generations could read it. This is science itself. Let's move on to the Greeks, because the Greeks brought one thing to the world of observation: mathematics. The Babylonians collected the data. The Egyptians produced the calendar. The Chinese kept the records. But the Greeks asked, what is the rule behind all of this? There was a man named Eratosthenes, the director of the Library of Alexandria. 2,200 years ago, just by looking at the difference between shadows in two different cities, he calculated the circumference of the Earth. The result? about 25,000 miles. The value we measure today is about 24,900 miles. The difference between them is 1%. No satellites, no computers, just the sun, 2 sticks, and one man's gift for mathematics. A man named Aristarchus came along, even bolder. He said, the Earth might be turning around the sun. He said this 1,800 years before Copernicus. Did it catch on? No. Nobody listened. Because there were no instruments to support his thesis. Sometimes giving the right answer is not enough. You also need the power to prove it. There was also a man named Hipparchus. This man classified the stars according to their brightness. He made the brightest stars first class, and the ones barely visible to the eye sixth class. This system is still in use. Astronomy students today are still learning Hipparchus's categories. Now let's cross the ocean, to the New World. The Maya, in the region of today's Mexico and Guatemala, were perhaps the most precise civilization in the world when it came to astronomy. They had a calendar called the Long Count. This calendar tracked the orbit of Venus so accurately that, over 500 years, it had a margin of error of only 2 hours. 500 years, 2 hours. The Maya built observatory buildings. The structure called El Caracol at Chichen Itza is an astronomy observatory. The direction of its windows points to the most extreme positions of Venus in the sky. Hundreds of years later, when archaeologists figured this out, they were stunned. In India, there was a man named Aryabhata. He lived in the 5th century. He calculated the value of pi. He said the Earth rotates around its own axis. And the man who was once unknown in his own homeland today has a satellite carrying his name. In the Middle East, beginning in the 8th century, Muslim astronomers took the knowledge of the Greeks, added their own observations to it, and remapped the sky. Many of the names of the stars in the sky today are of Arabic origin. Aldebaran, Betelgeuse, Rigel, Vega, all of them are the legacy of that period. They developed astronomical instruments, like the astrolabe, which could be considered the smartphone of the ancient world. From a single device, you could read the position of the stars, the time, your direction, and the date. How does all of this touch our lives today? Your phone tells you what time the alarm is going off. The definition of that hour comes from ancient Babylon. Dividing a day into 24 hours and an hour into 60 minutes, that is from them. Your compass points to the north. How did they know where the north was? From the North Star. Which civilization was the first to map this? The Greeks, and after them, the Muslim astronomers. An airplane flies from one point to another. The GPS system it uses depends on satellites in the sky. But the mathematical foundation for calculating the positions of those satellites in the sky was laid in the ancient world. The link between us is not broken. It is just invisible. One more thing. What did all of these civilizations have in common? They all spoke different languages. They all believed in different gods. They didn't know about each other. The Maya were unaware of the existence of the Babylonians. But they all looked up at the same sky, and they reached the same conclusions. This makes me think of something. The sky is humanity's first common language. Before speaking, before writing, even before thinking perhaps, humans raised their heads and looked. And the same stars fell on the eyes of an Egyptian farmer, a Chinese emperor, and a Maya priest. Today, because of city lights, most of us cannot see the sky properly. But one night, get out of the city. Go to a place where there are no lights. Lift your head up. Then you will understand what our ancestors saw, and why, for thousands of years, they could not take their eyes off the sky. If this video caught your interest, consider subscribing to the channel. Here, we are exploring stories from the ancient world, the origins of science, and the depths of space, together. Which ancient civilization do you think did not get the credit it deserved in astronomy? Write it in the comments. Let's talk. See you in the next video. Goodbye.